Hi, welcome back to the Drawing Database. Professor Marc Leone. Today we're looking at and spending 15 minutes with the drawings of English artist William Blake. You can consider Blake one of the higher-end illustrators and artists, and also lyricist or poet as well. English artist born in 1757 and died in 1827. He both lived and died and worked most exclusively in London, in England. So looking at Blake's drawings, you'll see most of his work is graphic, or it's drawing related, and has a heavy drawing presence, and generally heightened with washes of watercolor or other colored or chalk types of materials. A good place to see his work is at the Tate, the British Museum in London, and you can go there, ding, for free. And most museums in the great city of London, you can go for free, which I love that quality and that fact in British culture. They really encourage folks to get on in there and over there and make that experience much more affordable for sometimes those who cannot. So getting to the drawings, we see a lovely sort of circular composition of what looks to be the image of God. Lovely windswept image blown from the right here to the left, and then the lovely downward motion of God's arm in the calipers measuring for creating perhaps the heavens and earth and the seas of the earthly realm. And we see a lovely lay-in drawing here in a sepia tone, probably in a very precise contour line drawing. We also see the circular components, and then the other components of the heavens here. And then the lay-in of the God figure here and painted in watercolor, intoned. Again, with the focal point here in the circular aspect. Blake probably made most of his drawings from his imagination. They look stylized and change from a more academic approach to drawing the figure. Here we see a slightly different image, but the same kind of interesting measuring technique in the hands and arms. I love the notice the sort of neoclassical kind of styling, from a strong profile gesture right into the stylings of the figure, very academically, kind of precise, stylized here in some of the back muscles, which are probably overdeveloped and unusual, and we have some oddities in the anatomy through here, but overall really beautiful controlled composition and color styling of the figure. Strong sort of theatrical lighting coming from the top of the image, and that way we get the undercarriage of the image more in shadow. And then the dark sky here, a mathematical geometry problem by maybe Adam or man, and then this lovely rendering of this mossy, sort of rocky kind of embankment, and very three-dimensional but very sponge-like too, with all kinds of rocky little inclusions lit again from the top. So this image in the figure reminds me a little bit of the draftsmanship of Ingres, very slightly rigid and stiff within its posing, and very neoclassical in its clarity and its sort of ideal proportions and nudity. Here we see what looks to be from Blake a chalk drawing, heightened in some wetter material, the image of perhaps a Moses figure. So again, if you get a chance to go see his work at the Tate Britain, please do. It is fascinating to see. He has his own room. It's kind of darkly lit with sort of navy blue walls. It's really kind of a gorgeous example of a good fascinating long run of his works. And so here we see the slightly tilted drawing, very gestural kind of drawing, loose it's in approach, very circular kind of rhythm, and through here slightly hidden, hunched over figure clasping the staff here, and in an oval composition heightened with some color. Here we see a lovely illustration of what could be Adam and Eve, or two figures or two lovers, in sort of a celestial and also sea kind of realm, surrounded by plants and maybe also shells. And then we see an upper level figure here wrapped in a snake as well. The figures are contoured, very strong contour stylings with a neoclassical kind of rendering with a strong sort of abdominal undercut of the rib cage in the upper abdominal muscles, and then the under tuck of the rectus abdominal muscles in through there. Very neoclassical in design, but he really pushes the nice contouring and also the gesture away from one another. Remember this shape, this triangle seems to be something that shows up in Blake's compositions, and we have the inverted triangle, if you will, up in through here, and then the very wonderful neoclassical turn in through here, the upward lift of the foot and the curvature. So these figures are probably styled from his own imagination, and lovely stylings they are. They're very sculptural, three-dimensional, and then mostly front lit with slight areas of form shadow and also cast shadow and coarse shadow in small areas. And then, of course, the composition is encircled by the garden leaves, and then we have the moon and sun, which is something that Blake uses often in his illustrations, and in the lovely styling of the above angel and the serpent wrapping around the angel too. So a lovely crafted drawing using some symbolism and figures derived from imagination rather than probably pure observation, due to their similarity in facial structure and also similarity of body forms. Here it looks like to me another religious symbol, perhaps a Christ figure with raised arms as being hung on the cross, and then a weeping God, the Father figure in the lovely drapery, all white and angelic. And then we have what looks to be angels in a framing method, and then we have what looks to be perhaps Gabriel here, or some type of archangel here as well. Again, the neoclassical stylings, the contouring or outlining of the forms, and then the painting of the forms in wet media, or probably again watercolor. Notice that the overall forms are illuminated, but they're not naturally illuminated. They're imagined and stylized, and so we can assume that the entire composition was more than likely used from and drawn from imagination. And there's some Byzantine feeling to the heads. They feel a little bit earlier, certainly classical, but also slightly medieval. Here we have an image of the Godfather in Christian theology, and then we certainly have the attendant angels coming around in a sweeping composition, a kind of similar feeling, almost like animation, isn't it? Almost like a moving picture. And then we have those repentant figures in reflection and awe, and those prostrate figures bowing in worship. So we have the central figure of God. Again, notice that the figures of Blake are all stylized. They're all from imagination again, but well conceived in contour line, and then again heightened in watercolor material. So you'll have to ask yourself and notice for yourself, is this a style that I'm happiest with? You could ask yourself that question really with any particular style, but this is, besides the ancients, this is probably the first artist we've looked at. It has a more stylized attitude and spirit that's more well developed within an academic learning approach. Here we see lastly perhaps an angel coming in to save. Could be Isaac, the story of Isaac and Abraham. I'm not exactly sure, and it's not necessarily our point here. We could research that later. It's the lovely stylings of Blake. We kind of know a Blake when we see one because of the neoclassical designing of the figures. I love the gesture coming through in the draftsmanship. Again, this sort of semicircle compositional attitude, and you could also pull in the triangle that Blake uses to great effect most often. And again, that's a neoclassical kind of certainly an idea, because of the stability and symmetry that a triangle will give you as well. So the lovely stylings in the wings, all drawn and contoured and then painted with a approach from above of lighting, and then everything has an illuminating feel, but is again very stylized and heightened, and not from observation, but from pure imagination. But yet he uses his training to help him with the wonderful stylization that he gets into the drawings. And that's William Blake. Take care. Bye-bye.